If you wandered into a wild forest 10,000 years ago, you would likely starve to death surrounded by what we now call natural fruit. The apples, bananas, and watermelons you recognize today simply did not exist in the wild. In fact, if a prehistoric human walked into a modern grocery store, they wouldn't see a produce aisle. They'd see a room full of biological inventions. We have been led to believe that fruit is nature's perfect, untouched gift to humanity. We see a natural label and assume the food is exactly as it was at the dawn of time. But that is a massive misunderstanding. In reality, almost every fruit you've ever eaten has been hacked, redesigned, and biologically engineered by humans over thousands of years. We have rewritten the genetic code of our food to suit our cravings. And in doing so, we've accidentally triggered an ancient survival switch in our bodies that we may no longer be able to turn off.
To understand this mystery, we have to look at the ancient farmer, not just as a worker, but as a master biologist without a lab. Thousands of years ago, the ancestors of our favorite foods were tiny, bitter, and often toxic. They were designed by nature to survive, not to be delicious. But our ancestors had a sharp eye for mutations. If they found one wild plant that was a tiny bit sweeter or slightly larger than the rest, they saved its seeds and planted them. This is selective breeding, a process of artificial selection that has been running for over 10 millennia.
Take corn, for example. About 9,000 years ago in Central America, corn didn't exist. Its ancestor was a wild grass called teosinte. Teosinte looked like a jagged weed with a tiny spike holding maybe a dozen kernels that were as hard as pebbles. You couldn't even chew them. Humans spent thousands of years replanting only the softest seeds until they created the golden cobs we eat today, which are now 1,000 times bigger and contain up to 8 times more sugar than their ancestors. The peach underwent a similarly shocking transformation. Around 4000 BC in China, wild peaches were the size of cherries. They didn't taste like summer. They tasted earthy and salty, like a lentil. It took over 3,000 years of human tinkering to turn those salty little pits into the massive, juicy, fuzzy fruits that now fill our supermarket bins. Even carrots were originally thin, bitter, forked roots that were either white or purple. The bright orange carrot we know only became popular in the 17th century, potentially because Dutch growers bred them specifically to match the royal colors of the House of Orange. The produce aisle is essentially a clone army of biological masterpieces. Look at the banana. Wild bananas were once filled with hard, pea-sized seeds that made them almost impossible to eat. Humans took 2 different wild species, crossbred them, and eventually found a sterile mutant that had no seeds at all. Because this modern banana is sterile, it cannot reproduce on its own. Every single yellow banana you buy is a genetic clone that only exists because humans keep replanting cuttings.
Then, there are the Frankenstein hybrids of the citrus family. Did you know that oranges are not a natural wild species? They are a man-made hybrid of a pomelo and a mandarin created thousands of years ago in China. Grapefruits were an 18th century whoopsie that happened when pomelos and orange trees were planted too close together in Barbados. Even lemons are a hybrid of a citron and a bitter orange that required centuries of human selection to become the zingy fruit we use today. Even strawberries, as we know them, didn't exist until the 1700s, when French gardeners accidentally crossed a tiny, flavorful North American species with a giant hardy species from Chile.
But here is the big reveal that should change the way you look at your plate. Our biology is struggling to keep up with these inventions. Humans have a specific mutation in the uricase gene. Millions of years ago, our ancestors survived on tiny amounts of fruit sugar. When fruit became scarce during global cooling, a mutation allowed our bodies to store fat much more efficiently from every gram of fructose we found. It was a survival mechanism to prevent starvation.
Today, we are using that same starvation switch in a world of high-sugar, man-made fruit. Because we've bred the bitterness and fiber out of our produce to make it bigger and sweeter, our bodies treat modern fruit like biological candy. When you drink a glass of modern orange juice, you're getting about 25 grams of sugar, the same as a glass of Coca-Cola. Your liver cannot tell the difference. It processes those fructose molecules exactly the same way, leading to a massive spike in your bloodstream. Recent science suggests that overactivating this fructose pathway in our brains can lead to neuroinflammation and a drop in cerebral energy. Researchers now hypothesize that chronic fructose metabolism may be a key driver of modern Western diseases like Alzheimer's, as our brain cells struggle to handle the constant, unnatural sugar load we've engineered into our diet. We've essentially bred the nutrition out of our food, trading disease-preventing phytonutrients for size and sweetness. We are living in a world of biological illusions. We've spent 10,000 years redesigning the menu of the planet, but our bodies are still reading the original survival manual. We have successfully hacked nature to satisfy our cravings, but in doing so, we may have accidentally hacked our own health. It makes you wonder if we could go back and taste the bitter, seedy, but nutrient-packed wild fruits of our ancestors. Would we even recognize them as food? Or have we become so addicted to our own inventions that we can't survive without them? Which fake fruit on this list surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below.